Hey guys, I just want to start this video off by saying a little bit of a disclosure. I've never had a garden before. My parents didn't have a garden or anything, so I have absolutely zero background in this. I'm 100% winging it. Doing a little bit of Googling here and there, but then just kind of going with my gut and doing what I feel is going to be beneficial, I guess, for the plants. So don't be afraid to tell me if I did something wrong or how to improve something or what have you, because I'm definitely trying to learn how to do this. I plan to continue to do it through the next next year's growing seasons, what have you. We'll see how it turns out this year, though, and we will adjust our methods as necessary. But anyhow, I just want to get that out of the way. So if anyone in the comments is telling you that I'm wrong or I have no clue what I'm doing or whatever, you should probably listen to them because they're right. And I'll definitely be listening to them as well. So I decided to have a garden this year for several reasons. Reason number one is taste and overall health benefits, probably, I guess. Is, not having all the processed lab grown kind of... I'm nothing against farming, but there's certain ways that things are done in certain industries and on certain facilities that I'm not a fan of. So I would just rather grow my own produce and know exactly what went into it and what came out of it. Money is another thing. The nearest decent grocery store, we have a small market uptown here. But as far as, your nearest Aldi's or Walmart or I don't know what other big grocery stores you go to. Pick and Save or Festival Foods, whatever. The nearest any of those is 45 minutes to an hour drive. So it's not really convenient for me to buy fresh produce because I can't buy enough to last me a week or two. It goes bad within that week time range. So I can't buy enough to last me a while, and with it being that kind of a drive and diesel fuel at $5.15, $5.20 a gallon right now, I try to limit my trips to the grocery store as much as I can. So that would be that. I don't have everything completely planted quite yet. I am still hardening off some tomatoes that I had started in the house several weeks ago here. My broccoli is hardening off, my cabbage is hardening off, and then a bunch of my peppers. They're all still hardening off. So I haven't planted those outside yet. I will in the next week or two probably here. I'm hoping to anyhow, probably within the next week. And then everything will be in the ground and we'll see what comes of it, see what comes up, what doesn't. Hopefully it's not just a bunch of weeds. So, without anything further, I guess I will get you started on time lapse, and I'll kind of chime in here and there with what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And like I said, guys, watch it and tell me if it's right or wrong. I'll give you an update here come August, September time frame of how everything went, I guess, and I'll continue to take videos and pictures periodically, through this, and give you an update at the end of the year of what happened and how it all went. So, don't forget to like and subscribe. Like I said in previous videos, I'm trying to make a YouTube channel, trying to start something, see what comes of it, kind of document my life. This is about 1 year that I've been in this house, trying to do somewhat of a homesteading type deal. Not entirely self-reliant. I'm not that ambitious, but, as much as I can, I'd like to do. I don't like to hire things out. I like to do it all myself, so I guess keep watching and I'll take you guys on that journey with me however long it lasts until I say the hell with it. Thanks, guys. Alright guys, so the first step of starting the garden here was getting rid of this old apple tree. It was split right down the middle, so it was pretty well dying. It was going out fast. It still produced fruit, but the fruit wasn't that good. So we'll get rid of it, and the stump will serve as a nice centerpiece for the garden for me to lay all my findings on that when I rototill. So then the next step after that, or at least in my head, was go get some manure to put on there. So I had to clean out the goat pens anyhow down at Dad's where the goats stayed all winter. So I got a few skid steer buckets from there. And I estimate that to be about 1,200 pounds there, roughly. So after that, I threw what I had for compost and kitchen scraps out there, mostly eggshells and coffee grounds, but whatever helps, I guess. From there, went ahead and started rototilling. Now, I never ran a rototiller before. I got this one from my sister. She had it just laying there, laying around, so it worked for me. So we started rototilling everything in. You guys probably see what looks to be like cardboard out there, and that's because it is. It's just something that, it's an extra thing that I can throw into the goat pen or what have you as bedding just to get rid of it. It doesn't go to waste then. Cardboard will biodegrade and break down. The biggest thing is that it's not full of ink or like labels and, you know, kind of those more synthetic materials that that some piece of cardboard do, you know, like you get on a case of beer or a case of soda or what have you. There's no sense in trying to throw that out. That's all, that won't break down. But your raw cardboard will, so I throw it in with bedding just for a place to get rid of it, and then it's not being hauled away by the garbage man either. And then after rototilling, I think 3 times, maybe 4, I don't know, I got some of our composted cow manure that we have out in a pile out in the pasture there from cleaning out the barns and everything. And I spread a pickup load of that out. Now I figure this load's probably 1,500 to 1,800 pounds. It's pretty dense, but overall I ended up putting around 3,000 pounds of whatever you want to call it, organic material or whatever, on the soil here. So then in addition to all that organic material, if you will, I went ahead and I had a bunch of drywall scraps here from remodeling my office, and I soaked those overnight in water, and then I would go out and break them up and sprinkle them all over. When you put, especially like that goat manure that was all raw manure, it hadn't composted yet. When you put that on a garden, I read that it can make things pretty acidic. So the idea of the old drywall is to then bring it back to a more neutral or basic pH, and it worked out pretty well. After I did this, rototilled it in, let it get rained on several times, I ended up with an average pH of about 7.1 for my soil out there. So I think that's pretty good. I believe that's about what you want. So then the rest of the scraps from that remodel, I just threw it in an old garbage can. I set it in a pallet out behind the barn, and I'm letting it fill with rainwater and everything. Come the end of the season, I plan to take a mud mixer, you know, that you put on your drill for mixing up drywall mud, and I'll just throw it in that garbage can, mix everything up into kind of a slurry, and I will then spread that back over the garden with all of my kitchen scraps. Because what I read online is your kitchen scraps can get pretty acidic with your coffee grounds in it, and if you throw a lot of onion scraps in there or pepper scraps, you know, those types of things, it'll make things really acidic. So again, guys, it's another thing that was going to be thrown in the garbage, and now it's a resource or even an asset for the garden, and it cuts costs on buying lime. So why not use it? Might not be perfect, but it gets the job done. So then from there, rototilling, I don't know, a couple dozen more times. We pretty much had the ground broken up about as much as I was willing to do it because I got sick of rototilling. So then from there, I went and got some of our old rotted T-posts that we won't use for cattle fencing. I pounded those in around there. And in between each T-post, I put some of them really small round ones, those lighter duty, about 3 foot tall posts in between just to help support the netting. And then from there, I went and got some 7.5 foot deer fencing from Fleet Farm. It was about $50 for 100 feet of it, and I'm cutting it into thirds, and then that'll give me enough to go all the way around my garden. I think it was about 30 inches, I think it comes out to. I got deer repellent cake things that are going to go in there, so I'm not concerned about the deer stepping over this. This is more or less for the rabbits. Like I said, after this, I went and threw some of those smaller round, like 3-foot fencing stake post things in between these T-posts, and that worked pretty well to hold it all in place. And I tell you what, guys, if you really want to test your patience or, build your patience, try and work with this stuff in 20-mile-an-hour winds, 30-mile-an-hour winds, because it is a royal pain. I will tell you that much. It tangles and gets caught on everything and blows all over, and it's just a mess. So then from there you can see I put stakes in every 3 feet going all the way down on each side. That way all my rows are going to be nice and straight and I don't have anything going all crooked going across the garden. And with that I started planting. While I'm doing this, I do have a notepad out here that I drew the garden, and it's all kind of to scale. Not really, but it's got similar reference points, and I am documenting everything I'm putting in, how many of each plant is going in, what each row is, everything. That way I'll know where to water, what to water, how much to water, everything. So then once I planted all my corn, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go with a 7th and 8th row of corn or not. So I decided to come down to the bottom and start and work my way up the garden to see how much space I would end up using for my pumpkins, cucumbers, zucchini, squash, all that stuff that I'm going to be putting in mounds. One thing I did find really handy here were all these old marker flags, or like utility marker flags. The previous owner of the property had left them here, and I found a use for them here. I marked each mound so that way as things develop and all these, kind of make their canopy, if you will, I'll know where the base of each plant actually is and where to shoot my water at while I'm watering. The other thing I tried to keep in mind while doing this is the layout in regards to the sun needs and the water needs of the plants. So in the northwest section of the garden, I put all my corn. And then the northeast, I put all my tomatoes, starting with my hybrid, then my heirloom, then my cherries. Then moving down from there towards the south, I ended up putting in my peppers and then my celery and then spinach and, what have you. Just trying to move my plants shorter and shorter as they go further south. That way nothing's going to be shading out the plant behind it from the sun. The other thing that I tried to do here is put all of my melons on the southern end of the garden because my garden slopes towards the south. So in theory, that should be the wettest soil, and melons need a lot of water in my thought process. So after lots and lots of time and work here, I have a nice patch of dirt with some seeds in it. And now it's just a waiting game to see how things will progress from here. I'll try and get some pictures and videos throughout the season and maybe throw something together at the end of the season of how it all turns out. So if that video is done, I'll post a link here. If I don't have a link here, then that video is not done yet. I'm also going to go ahead and post a link of the super wicked awesome idea I came up with here for starting my plants indoors, starting my tomatoes and peppers and all that stuff indoors here. It was a really efficient system and it worked out really well, and I'm satisfied with the way it turned out. So make sure to go and check that out and look at that. So then overall, guys, thanks for watching here. Make sure to put in the comments anything that you would recommend I do differently, and like and subscribe.